The aroma of freshly brewed espresso and aged leather filled the corner, establishment tucked into Boston's North End, far from the gleaming towers of the financial district. This wasn't the kind of place where young professionals tapped on laptops or discussed stock portfolios. Here, conversations happened in low voices, deals were made with handshakes rather than contracts, and certain tables remained perpetually reserved for men whose names appeared in whispers rather than headlines. Amelia Parker pushed through the heavy wooden door, her rain-soaked umbrella dripping onto worn tile that had seen decades of footsteps. The morning rush had subsided, but every booth remained occupied by men in dark suits, their conversations pausing momentarily as she entered, before resuming in Italian and English. At 34, Amelia stood out not just because she was a woman, but because everything about her spoke of struggle rather than power. Her slightly wrinkled blouse, practical flats, the determined set of her jaw that came from 3 years of juggling part-time jobs while completing her business degree online. Just 15 minutes, she whispered to herself, checking her watch. 15 precious minutes to review presentation notes before the interview that could change everything for her and her 7-year-old daughter, Bella. Rain drummed against the window as Amelia scanned the dimly lit space for any available seat. Her gaze landed on a corner booth where a man sat alone, the empty bench across from him her only hope. Behind him, 2 men in dark suits stood against the wall, their postures relaxed but alert, their eyes tracking her movement across the room. She approached cautiously, coffee in one hand and portfolio clutched tightly in the other. "Excuse me," her voice wavered slightly. "Can I sit here just for a few minutes?" The man looked up and Amelia's breath caught. Even seated, his presence commanded the room. Sharp blue eyes assessed her from beneath dark brows, his expression unreadable. He wore a charcoal suit that spoke of tailors who work by appointment only, a platinum watch that caught the amber light from the table lamp, and on his right hand a gold ring bearing what appeared to be a family crest. Before him sat an untouched plate of eggs, Benedict, and a cup of black espresso, steam rising in the quiet air between them. "Take it," he said, his voice low and measured, nodding toward the plate. "I don't waste food." Amelia hesitated. The unexpected condition caught her off guard, but the wall clock reminded her that options were limited. "I couldn't possibly. It's not a request." He pushed the plate toward her with one finger, the gesture somehow both casual and final. With a tentative smile, Amelia slid into the booth. "Thank you, I'm Amelia." "Dante," he offered simply. No last name, no explanation. Behind him, one of the standing men shifted position slightly, maintaining his silent vigil. Amelia took a small bite, suddenly aware of how hungry she actually was. She'd skipped breakfast to drop Bella off at her neighbor's apartment earlier than usual. The rich hollandaise melted on her tongue, momentarily distracting her from interview preparation. She noticed the way the other patrons glanced toward this booth, the deference in their brief nods before looking away. "Important meeting?" Dante asked, gesturing to the portfolio she'd placed carefully on the dry edge of the table. "Job interview," she admitted, "at Salvatore Holdings." Something flickered across his face, surprise, perhaps curiosity. "Competitive place." "I know," Amelia said, taking another bite to calm her nerves. "But their family-friendly policies are unmatched, and they actually promote from within. I need something stable for my daughter." Dante's expression shifted almost imperceptibly. "Single parent?" Amelia nodded, accustomed to the question. For the past 5 years, her father decided fatherhood wasn't in his 5-year plan. She immediately regretted the bitter edge in her voice. "Sorry, oversharing with strangers isn't usually my thing." "Sometimes strangers are safer," Dante replied, his fingers tracing the rim of his espresso cup. "What position?" "Marketing coordinator," Amelia said, flipping open her portfolio to show him a presentation deck. "I've been freelancing while finishing my degree, but with Bella starting second grade, we need something more predictable." Dante leaned forward, studying the pages with unexpected intensity. The movement brought with it the scent of expensive cologne, old wood, and something else. Cigar smoke, perhaps. "Your approach is different." Amelia felt a flush of pride mixed with uncertainty. "Too risky?" "Bold." He met her eyes. "Risk is calculated. This is vision." The rain outside intensified, creating a steady rhythm against the windows. For the next 10 minutes, Dante asked surprisingly incisive questions about her marketing strategies, challenging certain aspects with the kind of knowledge that suggested he understood business at levels she was only beginning to grasp. His questions weren't theoretical. They were tactical, practical, the kind someone asked when they actually made decisions that mattered. You seem to know a lot about marketing for someone having breakfast alone, Amelia remarked, gathering her materials as the time for her interview approached. Dante's mouth curved into a half smile. I have interests, different kinds. Well, thank you for the breakfast and the practice session, Amelia said, rising from the booth, and for sharing your table. Amelia, the way he said her name made her pause. His eyes held hers for a moment longer than necessary. Walk in like you own the room. They'll feel it. With renewed confidence, Amelia stepped back into the rain, hurrying 3 blocks to the imposing Salvatore Holdings building. Unlike the glass and steel towers surrounding it, this structure was older, built from stone and dark brick, with narrow windows and an entrance that suggested permanence rather than innovation. By the time she reached the marble lobby, her shoes were soaked, but her mind was sharp and focused. The receptionist, a woman with silver hair and knowing eyes, directed her to the 5th floor. Mr. Salvatore likes the old building, she said with a slight smile. Says modern places have no memory. Patricia Hughes, head of human resources, greeted Amelia with a practiced smile in a corridor lit by wall sconces rather than fluorescent lights. Miss Parker, right this way. The team is looking forward to meeting you. The conference room contained not the small panel Amelia had expected, but a long table of dark wood where 6 executives sat reviewing her resume. At the head of the table, an empty chair awaited, its high back carved with subtle details that spoke of craftsmanship from another era. We're just waiting for Mr. Salvatore Pioe, Patricia explained. He sits in on final interviews personally. Amelia's stomach tightened. The job description had mentioned a panel interview, but not the company's owner. She straightened her portfolio on the table, grateful for the unexpected preparation session at the cafe, even as questions nagged at her mind. Who exactly had she been talking to? The door opened behind her, and Patricia's demeanor immediately shifted to one of deference. Mr. Salvatore, thank you for joining us. Amelia turned, her polite smile freezing, as familiar blue eyes met hers. Dante Salvatore, not just any businessman, but the man whose name appeared on the building, whose family had run operations in Boston's North End for 3 generations, stood in the doorway, his expression revealing nothing of their earlier encounter. Behind him, one of the men from the cafe took up position by the door. Ms. Parker, he said evenly, extending his hand, we meet again. The executives exchanged confused glances as Amelia struggled to process this revelation. The man who had shared his breakfast and offered advice was the same man who would decide her professional fate. You two know each other? Patricia asked, clearly surprised. Before Amelia could formulate a response, Dante took his seat at the head of the table. Ms. Parker and I discussed marketing strategies this morning. In fact, I believe we've already conducted half her interview. Nervous laughter rippled through the room. Amelia felt dizzy with implications. Had he known who she was at the cafe? Was this some kind of test? Well then, said the financial officer, a silver-haired man with wire-rimmed glasses. Perhaps you'd like to share some of those strategies with the rest of us, Miss Parker. Taking a deep breath, Amelia opened her portfolio. As she began her presentation, she noticed Dante watching her with an unreadable expression. Behind his composed exterior, something akin to respect flickered in his eyes. Or perhaps it was something more complicated. Little did Amelia know this chance encounter would set in motion events that would transform not only her career but her life, and Dante's, in ways neither of them could have anticipated. The rainy morning that had begun with a simple question, "Can I sit here?" was about to lead them both down an unexpected path filled with professional challenges, personal revelations, and the complicated reality of crossing the divide between their very different worlds. As Amelia concluded her presentation, the room fell into thoughtful silence. She had given everything she had, pouring 3 years of study and a lifetime of determination into those 15 minutes. Vivian, the marketing director with a sharp bob and sharper eyes, nodded appreciatively. Your concept for targeting family-oriented consumers is refreshing, Ms. Parker, she said. Though I wonder about implementation costs. Amelia had anticipated this question. The beauty of digital-first campaigns is scalability. We can test concepts in limited markets before full deployment, minimizing financial risk while maximizing learning opportunities. Dante leaned forward, his fingers forming a steeple beneath his chin. And if the initial tests fail? Their eyes met across the table, and for a split second, Amelia was transported back to the cafe, to the strange intimacy of their conversation over shared breakfast. She straightened her shoulders. Then we learn exactly what doesn't work, which is just as valuable. No marketing campaign exists in isolation. Each interaction with consumers builds a relationship, even when the metrics don't immediately reflect success. A hint of acknowledgement crossed Dante's features. Relationships over transactions. It's how I've built my freelance client base, Amelia said. People return when they feel valued, not just serviced. The interview continued for another 30 minutes, each executive probing different aspects of her experience and vision. Throughout, Dante remained mostly silent, observing the exchange with calculated interest. Only when Patricia signaled the conclusion did he speak again. One question, Ms. Parker. His voice drew everyone's attention. Why Salvatore Holdings specifically? Boston has no shortage of marketing opportunities. The question hung in the air between them, deceptively simple yet loaded with implication. Amelia knew the standard answers: company reputation, growth potential, industry leadership. But something told her Dante was looking for more. Truthfully, she began, deciding an authenticity was her only play. Your company's policies for working parents, the flexible scheduling, on-site childcare for emergencies, advancement opportunities that don't require choosing between career and family. She took a breath. I'm a single mother to an amazing 7-year-old girl. She deserves stability, and I deserve a chance to provide that without sacrificing her childhood or my professional growth. The room fell quiet. Patricia's expression softened, almost imperceptibly, while Vivian exchanged a glance with the financial officer. Dante's face remained unreadable, though something flickered behind his eyes. Thank you for your candor, Miss Parker, he said finally. Patricia will be in touch by end of week. With that, the interview concluded. Amelia shook hands with each executive, saving Dante for last. His grip was firm, professional, no hint of their earlier connection visible in his expression. Mr. Salvatore, she said, meeting his gaze directly. Miss Parker. A pause, almost imperceptible. Good luck. Outside, the rain had stopped, though dark clouds still hung heavy over the city. Amelia stepped onto the sidewalk, emotions swirling. Had she been too honest? Too bold? The fact that she'd unknowingly shared breakfast with the owner of Salvatore Holdings seemed like a cosmic joke, though whether at her expense remained to be seen. Her phone buzzed with a text from Mrs. Gonzalez, her elderly neighbor. Bella doing homework. How did interview go? Amelia typed back. Finished? Complicated? Tell you later. Complicated didn't begin to cover it. As she waited for the bus that would take her back to their small apartment in Dorchester, Amelia couldn't shake the feeling that regardless of the outcome, something significant had shifted in her life's trajectory. For better or worse remained to be determined. What she couldn't know was that across town, Dante Salvatore sat in his corner office, the room dark except for a single desk lamp, staring out at the same cloudy skyline. He turned a gold lighter between his fingers, a habit from years of thinking through difficult decisions, his thoughts occupied with their chance encounter and the unexpected direction his carefully ordered day had taken. 3 days later, Amelia stared at the email on her phone, reading it for the 4th time to ensure she hadn't misunderstood. Dear Ms. Parker, we are pleased to offer you the position of Senior Marketing Coordinator at Salvatore Holdings, effective immediately. This represents an advancement from the original position discussed, reflecting our confidence in your capabilities as demonstrated in your interview. Please report to HR on Monday at 9 a.m. to complete necessary paperwork. Regards, Patricia Hughes, Head of Human Resources. Senior Marketing Coordinator, Amelia whispered, sinking onto the worn couch in her small living room. The position was 2 levels above what she'd applied for, with a salary that would completely transform their financial situation. "Mom, did you hear me?" Bella stood before her in mismatched pajamas, her dark curls wild from sleep, clutching her favorite stuffed rabbit. "I said I'm hungry." "Sorry, sweetie," Amelia said, setting down her phone and pulling her daughter into a hug. "Guess what? Mom got the job." "The one with the big building?" Bella asked, her brown eyes, so like Amelia's own, widening. "That's the one, and it means no more rushing between different jobs. I'll be home for dinner almost every night." Bella's face lit up with a smile that made every struggle of the past 5 years worthwhile. "Can we have pancakes to celebrate?" "Absolutely," Amelia laughed, heading to the kitchen. As she mixed batter and heated the griddle, her mind raced with possibilities. The senior position meant they could finally move out of their one-bedroom apartment. Bella could have her own room, maybe even space for a desk where she could do homework without sitting on her bed. Yet beneath the excitement lurked uncertainty. Why had Dante Salvatore upgraded her position? Was it genuine recognition of her abilities? Or did he feel some obligation after their chance meeting? Monday arrived with crisp autumn sunshine. Amelia dropped Bella at school before taking the bus to the financial district. The Salvatore Holdings building seemed different in daylight, less imposing perhaps, but more mysterious. Its stone facade absorbed light rather than reflecting it, the narrow windows like watchful eyes. Patricia Hughes met her in the lobby, tablet in hand. "Welcome to Salvatore Holdings, Amelia. You've caused quite a stir, you know." "I have?" Amelia asked, suddenly self-conscious in her new navy blazer and pencil skirt, purchased over the weekend from a second-hand boutique. "It's not every day Mr. Salvatore personally advocates for a position upgrade," Patricia explained, leading her toward elevators paneled in dark wood rather than stainless steel. "In 10 years, I've never seen him take such immediate interest in a new hire." Amelia's cheeks warmed. "I didn't request special treatment." Patricia's expression softened. "No one's suggesting that. Your qualifications speak for themselves. But something about your interview clearly resonated." The morning passed in a blur of paperwork, introductions, and orientation. By lunchtime, Amelia had met her team, 4 young marketing associates who regarded her with a mixture of curiosity and wariness, and been assigned a small but private office with a window overlooking the harbor. Senior coordinators usually share space, her direct supervisor, Marcus Reynolds, had explained with slight awkwardness. But Mr. Salvatore insisted you'd need privacy for creative development. Each mention of Dante's involvement increased Amelia's discomfort. By noon, she decided to address it directly. Gathering her courage, she requested a brief meeting with the owner. To her surprise, Patricia arranged it for that afternoon. "He's actually asked to check in with you," she said. 3 o'clock in his office. At precisely 3, Amelia knocked on the heavy wooden door on the building's top floor. Dante's assistant, a woman named Grace with silver-streaked hair and knowing eyes, immediately ushered her into a spacious office dominated by windows that somehow managed to seem dark despite the afternoon sunlight. The walls were paneled in aged wood, the furniture heavy and substantial, a far cry from the minimalist corporate aesthetic of modern offices. Dante stood as she entered, setting aside a leather portfolio. Gone was the slight informality of the cafe. Here he was, every inch the powerful figure whose words shaped lives and businesses. Yet something in his eyes remained the same, that sharp intelligence, that careful assessment. "Miss Parker," he greeted her, gesturing to a chair across from his desk. "How's your first day progressing?" "That's actually what I wanted to discuss," Amelia said, declining to sit. "While I'm grateful for the opportunity, I'm concerned about the circumstances of my hiring." Dante's expression remained neutral. "You're qualified for the position." "For the original position I applied for, yes," Amelia countered. "But senior coordinator, with a private office and special attention from the owner? People talk, Mr. Salvatore. I don't want to begin my career here under a cloud of suspicion." A moment of silence stretched between them. Outside the windows, a gull soared past, momentarily distracting Amelia with the vertiginous height. "Do you know why I was at that cafe Thursday morning?" Dante finally asked. The question caught her off guard. "I assumed you were having breakfast." "I was avoiding a meeting," he admitted. "Business that required my attention, but not my presence. I was postponing the inevitable." His fingers found the gold lighter on his desk. turning it slowly. Then you approached my table, drenched from rain, clearly stressed, yet direct. You asked for what you needed. He straightened, meeting her gaze directly. When I made my condition about the food, you adapted. Most importantly, when you spoke about marketing, your entire demeanor transformed. You weren't reciting theories. You were articulating vision. Dante moved to stand beside the window, his silhouette dark against the light. I've built what I have by recognizing talent and potential, Miss Parker. You have both. The position upgrade wasn't charity or special treatment. It was calculated self-interest. Salvatore needs people who see beyond conventional approaches. Amelia processed his words, some of her tension easing. Still, the perception will fade when your results speak for themselves, he interrupted, his voice carrying quiet authority. I'm not concerned with office gossip. Neither should you be. His confidence was both reassuring and intimidating. Thank you for the clarification. Now, Dante said, his tone shifting to business. Your first assignment. Vivian tells me our family products division has been underperforming. I want fresh eyes on their strategy. The abrupt transition to work caught Amelia off guard, but she welcomed the chance to prove herself through action rather than words. I'll need access to their previous campaign data. You'll have everything required, Dante assured her. Report directly to me on this one. As Amelia turned to leave, a silver-framed photograph on a side table caught her attention. It showed a younger Dante with an older man who shared his features, both in work clothes rather than suits, standing before what appeared to be a small restaurant. My father, Dante said, noting her gaze. He started with one restaurant in the North End, passed away last spring. The unexpected personal detail revealed a glimpse of the man behind the careful control. I'm sorry for your loss. Dante nodded once, his expression momentarily unguarded. He would have liked your marketing approach. He always said business was about people first, profit second. The moment of connection passed quickly as Grace appeared at the door, reminding him of his next appointment. As Amelia walked back to her office, she felt more grounded. The job was real, earned through merit, not charity. Now she needed to prove Dante's faith warranted. Over the following weeks, Amelia threw herself into the family products project. Her days fell into a challenging but rewarding rhythm. Mornings organizing marketing data, afternoons collaborating with product developers, evenings with Bella. With her first paycheck, she secured a 2-bedroom apartment closer to Bella's school, transforming their lives in tangible ways. Her relationship with Dante remained strictly professional, their interactions limited to weekly progress reports and occasional strategic discussions. Yet Amelia couldn't help noticing subtle shifts in his demeanor when they worked together. A relaxing of his formal facade, moments of unexpected insight, a willingness to consider unconventional ideas that suggested he valued her perspective beyond mere courtesy. What she didn't know was how often Dante found himself thinking about their conversations, impressed not just by her marketing instincts, but by her unwavering priority, creating a stable life for her daughter. In his world of calculated moves and strategic alliances, such straightforward purpose was refreshingly genuine. The winter gathering for Salvatore Holdings' top clients and key personnel had been marked on the company calendar for months. Held in the private dining rooms above Salvatore's, the family's flagship restaurant in the North End, it represented not just a celebration of the year's achievements, but a strategic networking opportunity. For Amelia, now 3 months into her role, it was her first major corporate social event, a fact that filled her with equal parts excitement and dread. You have to go, insisted Vivian during their weekly department lunch. It's career suicide to skip the winter gathering. I know, Amelia sighed, pushing salad around her plate. But the babysitter I usually rely on is visiting family for the holidays, and Bella's too young to stay alone. Marcus, who had gradually warmed to Amelia as her family products campaign gained traction, offered a solution. Bring her. There's no official rule against it, and several executives bring their children. The restaurant has private rooms upstairs. She'll love it. The suggestion surprised Amelia. Is that appropriate? Technically, yes, Vivian confirmed, though usually it's senior staff children, not coordinators. That afternoon, reviewing quarterly projections in her office, Amelia was startled by a knock. Dante stood in her doorway, leather portfolio in hand, looking as impeccably composed as always. "Your numbers for the home comfort line are impressive," he said without preamble, stepping inside. 15% growth in a traditionally flat fourth quarter. Amelia straightened, professional pride momentarily overriding her gathering concerns. The product was solid, it just needed marketing that spoke to actual families rather than idealized ones. Dante nodded, studying a graph. "The authenticity angle is working. The question is whether we can sustain this momentum through spring." "I've drafted a comprehensive 2-year strategy," Amelia offered, pulling up the document on her computer. "Would you like to review it now?" For the next 30 minutes, they discussed market trends and consumer psychology, falling into the easy rhythm they developed during working sessions. Dante asked incisive questions that pushed Amelia's thinking further, while she challenged some of his more traditional assumptions about family purchasing patterns. "You've brought valuable perspective to the team," Dante acknowledged as their meeting concluded. He paused, seeming to debate something internally before adding, "Will you be attending the winter gathering?" The question caught Amelia off guard. "I'm hoping to. I'm working on childcare arrangements." Something flickered across Dante's face, understanding perhaps. "Bring her." "Are you sure?" Vivian mentioned. "It's settled," Dante interrupted with finality that brooked no argument. "I'll inform the staff to expect both of you." After he left, Amelia sat in stunned silence. Dante Salvatore had just personally approved her bringing Bella to the company's most prestigious annual event. The gesture was thoughtful, yet it reignited her concerns about special treatment. That evening, while helping Bella with homework at their kitchen table, Amelia broached the subject. "How would you feel about going to a fancy grown-up party at a beautiful restaurant next Friday? There'll be music and amazing food." Bella looked up from her math worksheet, eyes widening. "Like Cinderella at the ball?" Amelia laughed. "Sort of, except we'll definitely be home before midnight, and I'm pretty sure no one will be wearing glass slippers. Can I wear my blue dress with the stars?" "Absolutely. You'll be the most beautiful girl there." As the gathering approached, Amelia's anxiety mounted. She spent a significant portion of her new salary on a classic black evening dress, simple enough to be appropriate, elegant enough to belong. The night of the event, they took a taxi to the North End, Bella chattering excitedly beside her, resplendent in her beloved blue dress with silver stars. The restaurant glowed with warm light against December darkness. Inside, the main dining room had been cleared, its usual tables replaced by a few intimate seating areas. But the real gathering happened upstairs, where private rooms opened onto each other, creating a flowing space. Amber light from wall sconces cast everything in warm tones, while the scent of aged wood, fine wine, and rich food filled the air. Classical Italian music drifted through the rooms, played by a small ensemble in one corner. Executives in dark suits and elegant dresses mingled with top clients, wine glasses in hand, their conversations punctuated by laughter and the clink of crystal. This was Dante's world, Amelia realized. Not the sterile corporate environment she'd imagined, but something older, more grounded in tradition and family. "It's like a castle," Bella whispered, gripping Amelia's hand tightly as they checked in with Grace. "Ms. Parker," Grace greeted her with a knowing smile. "Mr. Salvatore mentioned you'd have a guest. We've arranged a special room for the few children attending. Art supplies and appropriate refreshments." Relief washed over Amelia. "That's wonderful, thank you." Once Bella was happily settled among colorful markers and child-friendly hors d'oeuvres, under the watchful eye of a hired caretaker, Amelia navigated the sophisticated crowd. She recognized board members from her interview and key clients from files she'd studied, exchanging pleasantries and business insights. "You've made quite the impression," Patricia commented, appearing beside her with 2 glasses of wine. "Your family product strategy is the talk of the executive floor." "That's gratifying to hear," Amelia replied, accepting the offered glass. Patricia glanced toward the children's room where Bella was concentrating on a drawing. "Your daughter seems lovely." "She's my world," Amelia said simply. "Everything I do at Salvatore is ultimately for her future." "A powerful motivation," came a familiar voice from behind them. Dante approached, impeccable in a tailored tuxedo that somehow made him seem even more formidable. The sight of him outside their usual office context did something to Amelia's carefully maintained composure. "Good evening, Patricia." Amelia. The use of her first name, a rare occurrence in their professional interactions, did not go unnoticed by Patricia, whose eyebrows rose slightly. "I'll leave you two to discuss the home comfort's success," she said, excusing herself with a knowing smile that made Amelia uncomfortable. "Your daughter seems to be enjoying herself," Dante observed, nodding toward Bella. "She is. Thank you for making it possible for her to come," Amelia said. "It means a lot to both of us." A moment of silence stretched between them, charged with something neither acknowledged. In this setting, away from spreadsheets and marketing strategies, Amelia was acutely aware of Dante not just as her employer, but as a man, intelligent, powerful, and undeniably compelling. "Would you introduce us?" Dante asked unexpectedly. The request surprised her. Of course. They walked together to the children's room, where Bella looked up from her artwork. "Mom, I drew our new apartment and your big work building." "It's beautiful, sweetie," Amelia said, genuinely impressed by the detailed skyline. "Bella, this is Mr. Salvatore. He's the person in charge of Mom's company." Bella studied Dante with unabashed curiosity. "Your building is very tall," she informed him solemnly. "Mom says we can see all the way to the ocean from her window." Dante crouched to Bella's eye level, something Amelia had never seen him do with anyone. The gesture revealed something unexpected: patience, genuine interest, perhaps even a glimpse of the man his father had raised. "You're absolutely right," he told her. "The ocean is my favorite of you too. May I see your drawing?" As Bella proudly showed him her work, explaining each element in detail, Amelia observed their interaction with fascination. Gone was the intimidating figure whose words shaped the company. In his place was someone patient, genuinely engaged, surprisingly natural with a 7-year-old's enthusiasm. When Bella asked if he had any kids, Dante's expression flickered briefly before he answered with simple honesty. "No, I don't." "Don't you get lonely?" Bella persisted with the directness only children manage. Dante's gaze met Amelia's over Bella's head. "Sometimes," he admitted, "but right now I'm enjoying talking with you." The moment was interrupted by Marcus approaching with an important client, pulling Dante back into his role. As the evening progressed, Amelia mingled professionally while keeping an eye on Bella, who eventually grew tired and curled up on a velvet sofa near the art supplies. "I think we should head home," Amelia told Patricia around 10. "It's well past your bedtime." "Let me arrange a car for you," Patricia insisted. As Amelia gathered their belongings and a sleepy Bella, Dante appeared once more. "Leaving already?" "Past someone's bedtime," Amelia explained, as Bella leaned heavily against her. Dante nodded. "Enzo will take you home," black Maserati outside. Before Amelia could protest the special treatment, Bella yawned dramatically, settling the matter. "Thank you," she said instead. "The evening was lovely." Outside, the promised car waited. Its driver, the same man who'd stood watch at the cafe months ago, holding the door open with quiet deference. As they settled into the leather seats, Bella mumbled sleepily, "I like your boss, Mom. He looks at you like Prince Charming looks at Cinderella in my book." Amelia froze, her heart skipping a beat at her daughter's innocent observation. "What do you mean, sweetie?" But Bella had already drifted to sleep, leaving Amelia alone with troubling thoughts as the car glided through Boston's nighttime streets. What she couldn't know was that across town, Dante sat in the now quiet restaurant, a glass of aged whiskey in hand, thinking of a drawing by a 7-year-old girl and her mother's determined journey to create a stability from chaos. A stark contrast to his own meticulously controlled but increasingly empty-feeling existence. A sharp knock on Amelia's office door broke her concentration. February sunshine streamed through her window, illuminating spreadsheets scattered across her desk, the remnants of a productive morning analyzing latest home comfort campaign results. "Come in," she called, expecting Marcus or one of her team members. Instead, Patricia entered, her typically composed expression unusually grave. "Do you have a moment?" she asked, closing the door firmly behind her. "Of course," Amelia replied, instantly alert. "Is everything all right?" Patricia took a seat, smoothing her skirt. "There have been concerns raised by certain board members about your relationship with Dante." Amelia stiffened. My professional relationship with Mr. Salvatore is entirely appropriate. Perhaps, Patricia acknowledged, but perception matters in corporate settings. Your rapid promotion, private office, direct reporting line for special projects, his personal attention at the gathering, these things have been noticed. Heat crept into Amelia's cheeks. I've worked incredibly hard. Our family products division has seen unprecedented growth under my marketing strategy. No one questions your competence, Patricia assured her. Your results speak for themselves. It's the appearance of favoritism that's causing whispers. Whispers? Amelia echoed, her stomach sinking. Patricia's expression softened slightly. Richard Blackwell, our CFO, has suggested restructuring the marketing department. Under his proposal, your position would be absorbed into a team reporting directly to Vivian, removing your direct line to Dante. The implications were clear, a demotion disguised as reorganization. After everything she'd built over the past 5 months, after all the late nights and innovative strategies that had genuinely benefited Salvatore Holdings, she was being sidelined because of unfounded gossip. This is ridiculous, Amelia said, struggling to keep her voice level. Has Mr. Salvatore approved this restructuring? He's been handling business in Sicily, Patricia reminded her. Family matters. The board meets tomorrow morning to finalize quarterly strategies, including department structures. Richard plans to present his proposal then. After Patricia left, Amelia sat motionless, processing this threat to everything she'd built. Her mind raced through options. She could approach Dante directly, but that might simply reinforce perceptions of special treatment. She could confront Richard, but without allies on the board, she had little leverage. Her gaze fell on the framed photo of Bella on her desk, taken on moving day at their new apartment, her daughter's smile radiant with hope for their fresh start. Everything Amelia had done was for that smile, for the stability and opportunities she'd promised to provide. With sudden clarity, Amelia knew what she needed to do. She wouldn't fight dirty or plead for protection. Instead, she would let her work speak for itself, loudly and definitively. She spent the remainder of the day gathering data, compiling results, and preparing a comprehensive presentation of her contributions to Salvatore Holdings. By midnight, she had assembled irrefutable evidence of her value, not as someone's favorite, but as a marketing strategist whose vision had tangibly improved the company's bottom line. The next morning, Amelia arrived early, her presentation loaded on a tablet and newfound determination stealing her nerves. When the board meeting was scheduled to begin, she stationed herself outside the conference room. One by one, board members arrived, some offering polite nods, others regarding her with curious glances. Richard Blackwell was among the last, his silver hair immaculately styled, his expression faltering slightly at the sight of her. Ms. Parker, he acknowledged coolly, this is a closed meeting. I'm aware, Mr. Blackwell, Amelia replied calmly. I'm hoping for 5 minutes to address the board before you discuss department restructuring. His eyes narrowed. Patricia shouldn't have. No one betrayed confidences, Amelia interrupted. But Salvatore prides itself on transparency and merit-based advancement. I believe I've earned the right to present my case. Before Richard could respond, a familiar voice spoke from behind them. I'd be interested in hearing what Ms. Parker has to say. Dante Salvatore approached, having just returned from his international trip. Though he must have been exhausted from travel, his appearance was impeccable as always, his expression revealing nothing about finding Amelia outside the boardroom. Richard's demeanor instantly shifted. Dante, we weren't expecting you until this afternoon. Sicily was productive, Dante replied briefly, his gaze moving to Amelia. What case are you presenting, Miss Parker? Meeting his eyes directly, Amelia answered with professional confidence. A data-driven assessment of my contributions to Salvatore Holdings, relevant to discussions about marketing department structure. Something flickered across Dante's face. Surprise. Perhaps respect. Without further comment, he opened the boardroom door, gesturing for her to enter ahead of him. The next 5 minutes would change everything. Standing before the board, 12 influential figures who controlled her professional fate, Amelia delivered the most important presentation of her career. She presented growth figures, customer acquisition costs, retention statistics, and market penetration data. She demonstrated how her strategies had revitalized stagnant product lines and reached previously untapped demographics. In conclusion, she stated, her voice steady despite her racing heart, I respectfully suggest that restructuring successful operations without substantive business rationale represents poor management practice. If concerns about my reporting relationship exist, I'm happy to report through standard departmental channels. But I ask to be judged on merit and results, not perceptions or politics. A profound silence followed her presentation. Board members exchanged glances while Richard studied his folded hands. Finally, Dante spoke from the head of the table. Thank you for your candor, Ms. Parker. The board will discuss your points and communicate our decision. It was a dismissal, however politely phrased. Amelia nodded, gathered her materials, and exited with her head held high, though uncertainty churned in her stomach. The rest of the day passed in excruciating slowness. Amelia focused on routine tasks, avoiding speculation with colleagues about her fate. When 5 o'clock arrived with no word from the boardroom, she packed her belongings, including Bella's photo, uncertain whether she'd be returning to this office tomorrow. As she waited for the elevator, Grace approached. Mr. Salvatore would like to see you before you leave, she said quietly. The executive floor was nearly deserted as Grace led her to Dante's office. Inside, he stood at the window, silhouetted against the darkening Boston skyline. He turned as she entered, his expression unreadable. Your presentation was impressive, he said without preamble. Thank you, Amelia replied, maintaining her professional demeanor despite her uncertainty. The board voted unanimously against restructuring marketing. Relief washed through her, though she kept her composure. I appreciate their consideration of the data. It wasn't just the data, Dante said, moving away from the window. It was your courage in defending your work. Not many employees would have risked confronting the entire board. I believe in standing up for what I've earned, Amelia said simply. Dante studied her for a long moment. That's precisely why I offered you that breakfast, Amelia. Not because of chance or some personal interest, but because you demonstrate conviction alongside competence. Salvatore needs people like that. The sincerity in his voice was unmistakable, and Amelia felt tension she'd carried for months finally beginning to dissolve. There is, however, one significant change to your position, Dante continued. Her guard instantly rose again. What change? The board has approved creating a new division, Family-Centered Innovation, with you as executive director, reporting directly to me, but with full departmental autonomy. Your success with home comfort demonstrated potential beyond traditional marketing structures. Amelia stared at him, processing this unexpected development. That's a significant promotion. One earned entirely on merit, Dante emphasized, detailed in the data you so effectively presented today. As the implications settled, a different kind of tension emerged between them. The unacknowledged personal connection that had developed alongside their professional relationship. In the quiet of his office, without pretense or corporate politics, they stood simply as a man and woman whose lives had intersected in unexpected ways. There's something else I need to address, Dante said, his tone shifting slightly. Something personal. Amelia held her breath, uncertain where this was leading. I've maintained professional boundaries because of our workplace relationship, he continued. But after today's board meeting, Richard suggested my defense of your position might stem from personal interest. A slight smile touched his lips. For once, Richard wasn't entirely wrong. The admission hung in the air between them, honest, vulnerable, completely unlike the controlled figure she'd grown accustomed to. I respect your intelligence, your determination, your integrity, Dante said quietly. I've valued every conversation we've had, professional or otherwise. And yes, I find myself thinking about you beyond work contexts. Amelia's heart raced. I'm not asking for anything, Bamal, he interrupted gently. Your career and your daughter's stability come first, as they should. I simply wanted honesty about my feelings, while assuring you that your professional advancement has always been based solely on merit. The sincerity in his eyes made something shift in Amelia's carefully constructed defenses. For years, she'd focused exclusively on survival and stability, putting aside any thought of personal happiness. Standing before Dante now, she realized how much she'd come to respect and, yes, care for him beyond their professional relationship. Bella asked me last week why you never come to dinner at our apartment, Amelia said softly. Apparently you look at me like Prince Charming, and princes are supposed to visit princesses. Dante's expression transformed with surprised delight. Observant child. She gets that from me, Amelia replied with a smile, along with being cautious about fairy tales. I'm not offering a fairy tale, Dante said, moving closer. Just dinner, perhaps. Outside the office, away from Salvatore politics. A chance to know each other, simply as Amelia and Dante. The proposal was modest, reasonable, a beginning rather than a happily ever after. After years of putting dreams aside for practicality, Amelia found herself ready to take a chance on possibility. I think, she said, meeting his gaze, Bella would approve of dinner, as would I. Dante's smile, genuine, unguarded, transformed his face. Tomorrow evening. I know a cafe with excellent eggs Benedict. As they laughed together, Amelia realized that sometimes the most unexpected beginnings, a simple question about sharing a table on a rainy morning, could lead to the most meaningful journeys. Her path had led her not just to professional success, but to the possibility of a connection she hadn't dared hope for. Sometimes it seemed happy endings didn't require magic, just courage to sit at an unexpected table and see where the conversation might lead.